Hello, I'm Ollie and this is CriminOlly, where I talk about crime, pulp, horror, that kind of thing. Today it's time to get romantic. I'm doing the Love in Books tag. So this tag was created by Ellie at the channel Bibbidi Bobbidi Books, which I have to say is one of my favourite channel names ever. In fact, I like it so much, I'm going to say it again. Bibbidi Bobbidi Books. And I was tagged by Bryson Bookish, who I think was amused by the idea of somebody from a channel like mine that's mostly about kind of the darker side of fiction, doing a video about romantic books. So we'll see how I get on with it. But there's some really good questions here, and it's not all kind of lovey-dovey romance. There's a bit more to it than that. So there are 7 questions, and then the obligatory tag some people one at the end. So let me go through those 7 questions with you now. Actually, there's 8. No, there are 7 questions. Ignore me. Right, question 1 then. Friendship Love. Name a book that includes a loving friendship. So one I've read recently and talked about on the channel recently, and I thought I had a lovely friendship at the centre of it, is Psalm for the Wild Built by Becky Chambers, which is about an unlikely friendship between what's he call himself or themselves, a tea monk and a robot. So just a really beautiful description of that kind of friendship evolving over time. So that's the first one. Second question then is Sibling Love. Name a book that features a strong sibling relationship. So appallingly, my mind immediately went to Flowers in the Attic by V.C. Andrews, her famous kind of gothic romance about 2 children, or a group of children, locked in the attic. The 2 oldest, the brother and sister, of whom form a romantic relationship with each other. It's a very trashy book, but I do think it's an interesting book, and it's definitely a very enjoyable book. And it also definitely explores the theme of, kind of love love in unusual circumstances, and how love can get us through terrible ordeals and things like that. Whether it's exactly the kind of book that Bibbidi Bobbidi Books was thinking of when they set this tag up, I'm not sure. Next one then, Parental or Guardian Love. Name a book that has a character who identifies as a parent or guardian. So for this one, I wanted to go right back to a series of books I read as a kid and absolutely loved. And that series is The Belgariad by David Eddings. So a fantasy series about this young guy called Garion who gets thrown into all sorts of adventures, and who it turns out has some greatness in him that he didn't expect he had. Where the kind of parental side of things comes in is there are 2 characters, Belgarath and Polgara, who are kind of his proxy parents, who look after him at the start of the book and who go on this adventure with him. And there's a really lovely kind of family relationship dynamic going on there, particularly between Garion and Polgara. But there's also a really nice kind of found family aspect to these books as well, where he ends up getting involved with this whole group of people who go on these adventures with him, and they do there's a big coming of age element to the stories as well. And yeah, they're definitely a lovely kind of family vibe to all of it, and I remember as a kid really enjoying that aspect of the books. Next question then, Pet Love. Name a book that features a loyal pet or animal companion. So I had to go for this one, and people who've watched the channel for a while can probably predict which book I'm going to say here. I had to go with Thor by Wayne Smith, which is just the most lovely horror novel you can imagine, which seems like an oxymoron, doesn't it? But a wonderful book about this family dog Thor, who realises his family are going to come under a threat from an outsider coming into the family, and a lot of the book is told from Thor's perspective, and it's about how he tries to balance his overwhelming desire to protect the family with the rules that the family put in place about his behaviour. Just a wonderful book, and I have to conclude by saying that Thor is a very, very good boy. If you've read the book, you'll understand that. Okay, next up then, Romantic Love. Name a book that contains a swoon-worthy romantic plotline. So one of my favourite romantic books of recent years is a book that you wouldn't expect to be a romance at all, and that's 11/22/63 by Stephen King, which is on the face of it a kind of time travel adventure about a guy who manages to go back in time and realises that he can thwart the Kennedy assassination. So that is kind of what the book feels like it's about. But it's also a really wonderful romance about a romance between two kind of older people, which I just thought was beautifully handled. It's really sweet. There's some lovely stuff in there about how romance can, kind of heal past traumas. I just thought it was a fantastically lovely book, and as I say, very romantic. Okay, question 6 then is Erotic Love. Name a book that doesn't fade to black when things get spicy. So I'm not sure that any of the spiciness in this book was really romantic or loving, but it's definitely a book that was very rude. And that book is Border Town by Lawrence Block. So I really like Lawrence Block. He's a crime writer. I've reviewed one of his books quite recently on the channel. And he's been going for decades and has written some great series, but it started out writing like really pulpy stuff, and Border Town is one of those really pulpy novels, so kind of a melodrama about this town on the border between the US and Mexico, where there's all sorts of vice going on. And seriously, this book has every possible combination of sexual partners and sexual positions and everything you could possibly imagine. It is absolutely filthy, but very entertaining as well. And thinking about it makes me think that I need to read some more smut. When I finish my 100 book challenge, I might dive into the world of smut on Kindle Unlimited and see what I can find. Okay. Next question then, this is the final question really, is self-love. It's not that kind of self-love, you dirty people. So name a book that includes the theme of self-love, appreciating your own worth, finding yourself, self-acceptance, personal growth, etc. So for this one, a book that may not be the book that people expect for this. So the book that I named on the channel a while ago as the most disturbing book I've ever read, and it remains the most disturbing book I've ever read, despite the fact that I've been deliberately trying to read more disturbing books recently. So that book is Noticed by Heather Lewis, which is a book about a young woman who's gone through some terrible traumas and continues to go through terrible traumas as the book progresses, but who throughout it is trying to, I guess, to come to terms with her own, with her own self, with who she is, and why she keeps on finding herself in these horrific situations. So an absolutely incredible book, which I unreservedly recommend. Unfortunately, also very difficult to come by at the moment, as many people have found recently. It goes for upwards of $600 on eBay at the moment, I think. Okay, so final prompt then, so not really a question, but share the love, tag some booktubers you love. So I've got 3 people here. I've checked. I don't think any of you have done this tag, but I think you'll all have fun with it. So those 3 people are MJ from the channel Reading Us Life, Gina Stanya, and Michael K. Vaughan. So if you fancy doing the tag, we'll be very interested to see what you do with it. Okay, time for a random book from the shelves, and naturally it's a romance. So this is one of the 40-odd Harlequin NASCAR romances I bought a little while ago. So this is Extreme Caution by Jean Brashear, which seems to be a book about a romance between a socialite whose husband has been in prison for embezzlement and an oil tycoon called Chuck. So it sounds pretty good. I haven't got to this one yet, but it looks like it'll be a lot of fun when I do. Okay, I hope you found that interesting. Do let me know in the comments your favourite romances. Also, let me know if you've got any recommendations for Kindle Unlimited smut that I can dive into in the coming months. And as always, thank you very much for watching. Hope you're safe and well out there. Hope you're reading good stuff, and I'll speak to you again very soon. Cheerio.